am someone who personally has a long list of movies that I would like to consider my comfort watches. There are so many wonderfully charming, exciting worlds to escape into, but I have to say, my favorite genre of movies to seek comfort in are under the slice of life, almost teetering towards anti-narrative films. Now, you would think watching stories that aren't super flashy and are more so about the everyday life of a non-fantastical character are somewhat boring and slow, but I have come to really appreciate this quiet little genre. A lot of the films that I would consider to be a part of this genre are very much from the experimental 90s indie or faux indie sort of movie. Think of films like Dazed and Confused, Only Yesterday, movies that have this quiet sort of charm to them. I find a lot of solace in watching stories about an average Joe who is just going through a normal day in their life and the slight conflicts that may occur within the average day. A lot of these movies can typically fall under the coming of age genre or drama comedy, but what I enjoy about these films and how they articulate the comedy and the drama isn't so much driven by a narrative or a plot device. It's more so about just the character and the character's feelings and desires. I find that these can be a bit more sporadic in the timeline or in the journey of the character or characters in some cases. And a lot of them are just very reflective on life. And I just find that to be very enjoyable. So today, I just want to talk about some of the films that I particularly enjoy from this genre. The first film that I would like to talk about today is actually the one that sparked this idea for a video. It is the 1997 film Hugo Pool. Hugo Pool was directed by Robert Downey Sr. and it stars Alyssa Milano. Alyssa Milano's character is named Hugo. She is a woman who works at her family's owned pool cleaning service, and it follows her day as she is attending to customers. It takes place in California, and so there are a lot of pokes and teases towards the superficial customers that might hire a pool cleaning service. A lot of tongue-in-cheek in that way that I found to be quite amusing. There's also just a lot of absurdity throughout the film. She has a couple very quirky customers as well as her very quirky father who has his own adventure and her mother. There is a lot of family dysfunction, but it's presented in a more lighthearted way. And the character development that follows that part of the story is very warm and a little awkward at times, but it does get a bit dark at times, but it's more in a absurdist way. What I find so particularly comforting about this film, outside of all of the laughs and giggles, is the love story between Alyssa Milano's character and Patrick Dempsey's character. Patrick Dempsey plays a client for Hugo named Floyd, and Floyd has ALS. Robert Downey Sr.'s wife, who passed a few years prior to this film, had ALS, and so this was kind of a love letter to remember her by, which I think is so lovely. I didn't find that out until after I watched the film, but it just kind of added an extra layer of beauty to the love story. I absolutely bawled my eyes out at the end of this film. For a good few minutes, I won't spoil the ending, but it does have a tearjerker at the end. But it's very silly, very charming, and it gave me the same feelings as Dazed and Confused. It's just very silly but quiet. It's just a very lovely little story about the day in the life of someone who you would think would have a very mundane day, but it ends up being full of all these twists and turns, and the people in her life also have their own little twists and turns and how they all intermingle together. Whisper of the Heart is probably my favorite Studio Ghibli film, which is saying a lot because Studio Ghibli has produced such masterpieces, but Whisper of the Heart has one that I have always been drawn to. I feel like it's one of the lesser known ones. It's not as fantastical as Spirited Away, but it still has all the charm that you would expect from a Studio Ghibli film. Whisper of the Heart follows the middle school girl Shizuku, and Shizuku loves reading. She loves writing. That is her passion. And it follows Shizuku as she wants to pursue these passions while also having to learn how to balance life, like school, and her family. She often spends a lot of time locked up in her room reading or writing and not coming to the dinner table, which upsets her parents, or she contemplates not continuing school, which upsets her parents, but she is so determined to become a writer. Her love for reading is how she meets the other main character, Seiji. Seiji is a boy that goes to her school, and he also has very ambitious dreams. His dream is to become a violin maker. That is his trade that he has been studying. The film follows their determination of following their dreams while also exploring the complexities of being a teenager and having to not only keep up with your schools and family, but also making time to pursue creative ambitions. Shizuku's writing style is very fantastical, and the creative world that she creates is very reflective of her internal struggles as a budding, self-taught writer. There's lots of reflections of self-doubt and emotional growth presented within her writing and her dreams that inspire her writing that I think many artists can relate to. There are so many wonderful characters throughout the film, like Seiji's grandpa, who act as the supportive mentor. He offers a lot of kind, sweet, wise words to Shizuku whenever she is feeling those moments of self-doubt. And he also has he has a charming little antique store, and I love his character. He's so full of warmth and is just really that kind of beacon of light that Shizuku needs outside of her family, because her family isn't very supportive of her ambitions and they want her purely to focus on the academics of school. The film is very beautiful in the way that it talks about being a young artist or being an artist who is still on the pursuit of reaching their dreams, whatever their next step is. Seiji is someone who is very talented, but he has further ambitions to reach. And Shizuku is someone who is just starting on her journey and is figuring out her writing style and how to polish the imperfections. The love story between Shizuku and Seiji is also very adorable, and the ending is very, very sweet and makes me cry every time. The last film that I would like to shine a light on today is the 1989 film Dead Poets Society. I feel like this one is a little bit more well known than the others. This film is notorious for having a heartbreaking ending, which if you haven't seen it, I won't be spoiling it. But it's very tragic, and I know some of you might be asking, why is this a comfort watch of yours? Allow me to explain. Despite its heart-wrenching ending, Dead Poets Society is a very charming coming-of-age story. And without trying to sound too much like I peaked in high school, I felt a lot of nostalgia watching this film. I was someone who was fortunate enough to have some pretty spectacular English and theater teachers during my time in high school, to the point where they allowed me to hang out in their classrooms early in the morning before school started, and also allowing me to eat my lunch in there. They were not only very kind to me, but they also made learning fun and did a great job engaging students with the material. And for me, English was not my strong suit. I was very much a math girly. So for them to take reading and analyzing narratives and make it fun and understandable for me greatly impacted me. And I probably wouldn't be sitting here yapping about films that I love without the experiences that they gave me. All that to say, I had a few of my own Captain O'Captains. So the relationship between Keating and his students, fueled by his love for teaching and inspiring creativity, was one that I really related to and brings me a lot of comfort. The antics that the boys get up to during their club meetings is also just so playful and was a great way to show how through experimentation and exploration, especially as a teenager, you're able to evolve from a little mini carbon copy of your parents into your own true self. And I know there's some arguments that can be made about the themes of the film, but that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about how this film warms my heart. And for me, the cave was the one place outside of their own minds where they could truly try to figure out who they are. You could argue how they're performing for each other and trying to make a show because they're high school boys. But for me, it was the freedom of the camaraderie of brotherhood and being able to experiment and explore in a safe space. The ending is tragic. And as much as I would love to pretend that it ended in another way, it was the punch in the gut that I think was needed in order to drive home the message. And the message of the film is so beautiful. The importance of creative expression and allowing teenagers to explore and be safe support for them. It also made me very grateful to have such supportive parents on my own artistic journey. Parents who have always been supportive of my hobbies, whatever they may be. I have gone from sewing to creating costumes to dancing and photography, and they watch my YouTube videos, and I am so grateful. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for being such wonderful supporters, for showing me all the movies that are on this list. Chasing your dreams isn't always easy, but you guys make it a lot easier. It's occurred to me that all the films that I had to talk about today are very emotional in how they end, but sometimes the movies that you find comfort in are the ones that just allow you to have a good cry. With that, that is all the time that I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this cozy little discussion. I know today we talked a lot about sad movies, but for me, those are some of the best ones. I love films that make me feel something, whether I leave feeling angry or hopeful or sad, heartbroken. They made me feel something, and I will never fault art for doing its purpose. I would love to hear about your favorite comfort watches, if you have seen any of mine and what you think of them. Are you a fan of Hugo Pool? Do you understand why I love it so much, or do you hate it just as much as everybody on Rotten Tomatoes? If you stick around to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you being here. If you would like to see more of my face, you can like, subscribe, all the good jazz. I like to talk about films, photography, a little bit of what it's like being an artist in the everyday life. And I will see you next time. I hope you have a super lovely day. Bye.